There are some people you shouldn't be close to because they can bring bad luck into your life. It's like sharing in their problems when you connect with them. Now let me tell you a story about a young man named John. John was a handsome and kind teacher who taught in a primary school. He was very good at his job and loved teaching children. His students liked him because he always explained lessons in a way they understood. John's family didn't have much. His father had left them a long time ago, so he and his mother worked hard to take care of the family. His mother was sick, and John was the one providing for her and his younger siblings. He was their breadwinner. One day, while John was teaching in school, something unexpected happened. A parent barged into the classroom, yelling and pointing fingers at him. The parent accused John of touching their child in a bad way. John was shocked and confused because he had never done such a thing. Before he could say much, the police arrived at the school. They arrested John right there in front of the students and other teachers. Everyone was staring at him, and people started whispering. Some believed he was guilty, while others thought he was innocent. John lost his job because of the accusation. Things became very hard for John's family. Without a job, he couldn't pay for his sick mother's treatment. Sadly, she passed away because there was no money for medicine or proper care. John was heartbroken. He loved his mother so much, and he blamed himself for her death. Meanwhile, John was kept in prison for a crime he didn't commit. He was accused of something terrible, and people treated him like he was a bad person. But John kept praying and hoping that the truth would come out. After many months in prison, a kind lawyer decided to help John. The lawyer worked hard to prove that John was innocent. During the investigation, the police brought the child who was involved in the case to ask her questions. When the police asked the little girl what happened, she said something that surprised everyone. The child pointed at John and said, "Uncle taught me how to make love." She then used her finger to draw a heart shape in the air. It turned out that John had only shown the children how to draw a heart shape during a class on love and kindness. The child had misunderstood the situation, and her parents had jumped to the wrong conclusion. When the truth came out, the court declared John innocent. The parents were punished for ruining John's name and reputation. But even though John was free, he had lost so much. He no longer had a job, his mother was gone, and people still gossiped about him. John decided to start his life again. It wasn't easy, but he worked hard to rebuild everything he had lost. John's life began to change in ways he never expected. After the truth about his innocence came out, people started showing him kindness wherever he went. It was as if the hardship he had endured in jail had unlocked a new chapter of blessings for him. Anytime he went to buy something at the market, people would recognize him and refuse to take his money, saying, "You've been through enough, John. Let this be on me." One day, John decided to get a haircut at a small barbing salon in his neighborhood. While waiting for his turn, he cracked a little joke about how the barber was holding the clipper like he was about to perform surgery. Everyone in the salon burst into laughter, including a well-dressed man sitting in the corner. John didn't know that this man was a wealthy businessman. After the haircut, the man approached John, still smiling, and asked for his contact information. John thought it was just a polite gesture and didn't think much of it. A few days later, John received a phone call from the same man. He introduced himself as Mr. Adewale, the owner of a large company, and offered John a job as his personal assistant. John was surprised and grateful. He didn't have much experience in such a role, but Mr. Adewale assured him that his honesty and personality were all he needed. John started working for Mr. Adewale, and it felt like a dream. His colleagues at the company noticed how everything seemed to go well for him. "It's like you were born with a golden spoon," they would often tell him. Wherever John went, people favored him. Clients were drawn to his charm, and even strangers wanted to help him. Some people began whispering that John might be using charms to attract good fortune, but he paid no attention to the rumors. Many women were drawn to John as well. Some of his female colleagues would visit his house, helping him clean, cook, and even do his laundry, hoping he would notice them. But John wasn't interested. Anytime he thought about settling down, he remembered his father, who had abandoned their family. "Am I going to be enough?" he would often ask himself. "What if I hurt someone the way my father hurt us?" John's mother, before she passed away, had always begged him to stop worrying about the past. "You are not your father, John," she would say. "You're a better man, a responsible man. Don't let fear stop you from being happy." Her words stayed with him, but John still struggled with his fears. He wanted to love and take care of his family someday, but he didn't want to fail them. "How do I stop feeling this way?" he would ask himself. "I'm tired of running away from people who care about me." One day, John decided to stop hiding. He told himself that it was okay to be scared, but he couldn't let fear control his life. John decided it was time to stop running from life and give love a chance. He prayed for a kind, homely woman, not someone flashy or worldly, but someone who shared his values. One day, he noticed Sarah, his next-door neighbor, a young woman who seemed calm, gentle, and always cheerful. Sarah was active in her church, and John liked how dedicated she was to her faith. He thought, maybe this is the kind of woman I need in my life. One evening, as John returned home from work, Sarah greeted him warmly and invited him to her church for a special program. At first, John hesitated, but she persuaded him, saying, "It's going to be a great experience, John. Just come and see for yourself." John agreed, and that Sunday, he attended the church service. He liked the way Sarah sang in the choir, her voice filled with joy and passion. After the service, they began talking. Sarah asked him questions about his work, his family, and his life. John appreciated how she listened carefully to every word he said. She seems genuine, he thought. They became friends, and over time, their friendship grew into something deeper. They started spending more time together, and John felt like he could finally open his heart to someone. But things took a turn one evening when Sarah invited John to her house for dinner. She had cooked his favorite meal, and after eating, they sat on the couch talking about life. Suddenly, Sarah leaned closer and said, "John, I feel so connected to you. Let's make love." John was shocked. He hadn't expected this from someone he thought was different. "Sarah, I don't think this is the right thing to do," John said gently, trying not to hurt her feelings. But Sarah insisted, throwing herself at him and saying, "If you love me, you'll do this." John hesitated but finally gave in, feeling pressured and unsure. He regretted it immediately afterward, but Sarah seemed happy. A few weeks later, Sarah told John she was pregnant. At first, John felt a mix of emotions, fear, responsibility, and even a bit of excitement. But as time went on, Sarah's true character began to show. She became demanding and controlling. Whenever John sent money to his siblings or helped someone in need, Sarah would get angry. "Why are you wasting money on other people?" she would shout. But if John gave money to her parents, she had no complaints. Sarah began to insult John's friends and even his clients. One day, she stormed into his office, accusing a female client of trying to steal her man. The client, embarrassed and upset, canceled a big contract that could have changed John's life. She's ruining everything, John thought, but he felt trapped because Sarah was carrying his child. John's savings started to run out as Sarah demanded more and more money for herself. She didn't care about his struggles or his sick siblings. She only cared about her own needs. John felt stuck and helpless. He remembered the promise he had made to himself to be a better man than his father, but now he felt like he was failing. John's friends gave him different advice. Some said, "Leave her, John. She's ruining your life." Others said, "You can't abandon her now that she's pregnant." John didn't know what to do. He started to pray again, asking God for guidance. One day, while walking home, John met Pastor David, a kind and wise man from Sarah's church. John decided to open up to him about everything. Pastor David listened carefully and said, "John, this is a spiritual battle. Sometimes people come into our lives not to help us, but to harm us. We need to pray and fast to break these chains." The pastor invited John to join a series of fasting and prayer sessions. Together, they prayed for weeks. During one of the sessions, Pastor David said, "John, God has revealed something to me. Sarah has an evil spirit influencing her actions. She's not just a troubled woman, she has bad intentions." John felt a chill run down his spine. Could this be true? He remembered how everything in his life started falling apart after he got involved with Sarah. Determined to break free, John continued praying and fasting with the pastor. Slowly, he started to feel a sense of peace and strength he hadn't felt in a long time. But the battle was far from over. Sarah noticed that John was pulling away, and she began to use his fears against him. "If you leave me, you'll be just like your father," she said. "A man who abandons his family." Her words cut deep, but John reminded himself that he wasn't his father. He was trying to do the right thing, even if it was hard. The prayers continued, and one day, Pastor David told John, "You need to confront Sarah and tell her the truth. This relationship is not from God." John knew it wouldn't be easy, but he was ready to take the first step toward freedom. Sarah started acting like a different person after John began pulling away. She became sweet and gentle, saying all the right things. She told John, "I know I've been difficult, but I've changed. I was just scared of losing you, and that's why I acted that way." Her words sounded honest, and for a moment, John believed her. One evening, Sarah's parents came to visit John. They looked humble and sorry as they begged him to forgive their daughter. "She's our only child," her mother said with tears in her eyes. "Please don't give up on her. She loves you, and we know she made mistakes, but she's trying to be better." John didn't know what to say. He was torn between doing what was best for him and what was best for the child Sarah was carrying. As the days went by, Sarah continued to act like she had changed. She cooked for John, cleaned the house, and even encouraged him to keep helping his siblings. "You're such a good man, John," she would say, making him feel hopeful. "I promise to support you from now on." John thought deeply about giving Sarah a second chance. "Maybe she's really sorry," he thought, "and I can't just leave her now that she's pregnant. What kind of father would I be?" He prayed for guidance, asking God to show him the right thing to do. One morning, John went out to look for a new job. Things had been hard, and he was desperate to find work so he could support his family. When he came back home that afternoon, something felt wrong. The house was silent, and there was a strange smell in the air. As John stepped into the living room, he froze. There was blood everywhere. His heart started racing as he called out, "Sarah! Sarah, are you here?" John found a note on the table. With shaking hands, he opened it and began to read. The note said, "John, I lost the baby. I'm sorry, but I can't do this anymore. You'll be better off without me. Goodbye." John was shocked. He looked around the house, but Sarah was gone. She had packed her things and left. At first, he felt sad, but as he sat down to think, a wave of relief washed over him. "Maybe this is God's way of freeing me," he thought. John knelt down and prayed, thanking God for giving him a second chance at life. That night, John went to bed feeling lighter than he had in months. But as he slept, he had a strange dream. In the dream, he was lying in his bed when a dark figure appeared in the room. The figure held a long knife and started walking toward him. John tried to move, but he couldn't. He was frozen with fear. The figure leaned close to him and whispered, "You're lucky I lost the baby. I was going to make your life a living hell." Just as the figure raised the knife, John woke up, sweating and gasping for air. It was just a dream, but it felt so real. John stayed up for the rest of the night, thinking about everything that had happened. He realized that Sarah had brought nothing but pain and trouble into his life. But now, she was gone, and he had a chance to start over. The next day, John spoke to Pastor David about the dream. The pastor told him, "John, this is a warning. Be careful about the people you allow into your life. Not everyone who comes close to you has good intentions. Some people are sent to test your faith and patience. But remember, God will always protect you if you stay close to Him." From that day on, John decided to focus on rebuilding his life. He learned an important lesson. Not everyone who claims to care about you truly does. Be careful who you trust, and always ask God for wisdom to make the right decisions. John never stopped praying, and he never gave up. Slowly but surely, his life started to get better. He found a new job, reconnected with his siblings, and began to heal from all the pain he had been through. Though he was still cautious about opening his heart to anyone, John knew that with God on his side, he could face anything that came his way.